Good evening, Steeler fans. Welcome to another Wednesday night here on BTSC Radio. Every Wednesday night, we come in here, talk about the Steelers' upcoming opponent here on Know Your Enemy. This week's the bye week, so we're talking about the Steelers, who are indeed their own worst enemy right now. I'm, as always, Geoffrey Benedict here hosting the show. With me, Shannon White. Shannon, how you doing today?
I'm doing just great and ready to get going.
We got some people in the chat saying we got a 5-yard penalty for starting for delay a game. We're getting started a little late tonight, but that's okay. Worth waiting for our guest tonight to tell us about everything Steelers. Nick Farabaugh. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing so well, guys, and I appreciate you having me on. It's always a blast to be on. Talking Steelers, so much going on, and the mess, the rampage, I don't know what you want to call it, man. It's a crazy, crazy time of year in Pittsburgh right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's unprecedented. Like, I know we've been 2-6 10 years ago. It happened, but like, it wasn't like this. It didn't feel like this. It wasn't this bad. I want to ask you, is this the Steelers' worst start of a season that you can remember?
Oh, yeah. Some of these games, they look downright uncompetitive. Now, we've seen games where they have been. The Miami game sticks out as probably one of their best games. If they get one of those picks, they probably win that game, to be quite honest with you. They did beat the Bengals. They're flawed, but they did win that game. But, man, they're just so far away from the Eagles and the Bills. And I don't think we are familiar seeing the Steelers that far away from the pack. It really is kind of startling. Even the last 2 years where, the offense has struggled and the defense has been up and down at times, Pittsburgh has always been competitive. And I think this team can be if they're fully healthy. But it has been the worst start in Mike Tomlin's tenure. It might be the worst start of the millennium, honestly. So like when you look at it, when's the last team that really came out this flat for the Steelers? It's been a while. It's been a long, long time.
Well, we had the Super Bowl hangover in 2006, but to me, the question goes back to 2003. Would you take this team or the 2003 Steelers if they played each other? Back with Tommy Maddox and, that team where Troy Polamalu's on the bench.
Yeah. That's a team that it did have Jerome Bettis and Hines Ward and Plexico Burris. It's a very flawed team too, though. You still have Alan Faneca up there.
Yep.
That is obviously just great. But you also had Jerome banged up that year, not fully healthy, so he had a down year. Interesting parallel there with a certain running back that might be having that going on with him right now. And the defense was kind of very similar too, right? You look at some of the guys on that defense. I think you had Hampton, Smith, Gilden, I think, was there. That's Ferrier's, I believe, first year with the Steelers.
That's his first season. Yep.
You have kind of some pieces there, but it wasn't really a cohesive unit. And the secondary was pretty bad that year. And I think that's also the thing. So a lot of parallels.
Brent Alexander.
Yeah, it's like a lot of parallels, right? A struggling secondary, a pretty mediocre quarterback play, a banged up running back, a bad offensive line, a lot of things. And that defense, got banged up too. So I think they didn't lose someone like a TJ Watt, but they weren't exactly healthy that year either.
Yeah.
To me, there's no comparison. This is the worst Steeler team. I'm older than both of you guys. And honestly, the 2003 team were the victim of circumstances. They had talent. They had future Hall of Famers. It was just a confluence of events that led to that season. This year, it's just, if you look at this year's Steelers team, their foundation is just not there. They've went flash instead of substance too many times in the draft. They've tried to patch holes instead of actually building a firm foundation, and it's all catching up. And I don't see any anywhere along the board that they're better than that team. Maybe Watt. TJ Watt, of course, is just one of the all-time greats, but the offensive side of the ball is just, it's hard to watch. And I know it is for all of us. And then the Steelers yesterday go and they trade, one of the few weapons they had in Chase Claypool. Now, at the beginning of the preseason, we all talked that I really thought that if they could get him, in the slot and, get him the ball on the move in the middle of the field and let him, because, that's his thing, is yards after catch. And Claypool, he showed one time there against the Eagles. When he catches that ball, he's hard to tackle and he runs really hard. So I think if he's used correctly, that brings us back to Matt Canada. How does that man still have a job? I'm going to ask you that.
Yeah.
Nick, what am I missing? How does that man still have a job today?
Yeah, it's a good question. I actually think the right comparison for Steelers teams is 1988, where you have Bubby Brister kind of right there. That was a pretty lifeless Steelers team too. Rod Woodson was like the star of that defense too, and he kind of just carried that defense, but it wasn't a particularly good offense outside of the receivers, which is kind of what they're like right now. But when you look at like Matt Canada, right? I think Matt Canada has a job for two reasons. One, I don't think they want Kenny Pickett to have to worry about learning a system or a rhythm with a new offensive coordinator. I think that's a huge part of it. I really do. I think this season has turned from trying to win to let's see what we have in number 8. And I think he is the main focal point. And if he's the main focal point, having him in his rookie season where I think you kind of already botched his handling. Why did you throw him in to a random halftime game? Give him the full week. Like if you wanted to start him, you should have taken the 10 days and started him then. There were 4 options for me with Kenny Pickett. You start him week 1, you take the 10 days and start him at the Jets, you start him after the bye week, or you don't play him at all. And that's obviously barring Mitch Trubisky getting hurt. You had to prepare Kenny Pickett because a rookie quarterback is so fragile. Even a pro-ready 24-year-old is fragile. And so they've messed it up so much already that I think they have to put a stability around Kenny Pickett. Even if that stability, that foundation that Matt Canada brings isn't good, you still have to let him kind of learn the game first, right? And Matt Canada's system isn't super complicated. It's super simple, and he's still missing some reads on it too. Like, I think you got to let the kids settle in. I think you have to. And then next offseason, then you get rid of Canada. I think that's kind of the Mike Tomlin idea. Now, I can see the argument for firing him. I just don't think that there's also, I'll say this, who else on the coaching staff do you want to call plays? Like Mike Sullivan isn't a glowing candidate. He was awful too in his last stop. Now, if they had like a young guy on this staff that they really wanted to see to call plays, I think that's when they would have pulled the trigger. If they had a guy on the staff where they were like, okay, we want to see this guy call plays. I don't think they have that guy. So really, all you would be doing is throwing Kenny Pickett off the deep end. And again, I don't actually think it gets much better if you fire Matt Canada. Like, I don't think Mike Sullivan's a very good offensive coordinator. Now, maybe the argument would be Mike Tomlin calls the plays, and maybe that would be the suitable answer. But I kind of think they made their bed by bringing Canada back, and they kind of got to ride with it now because they've botched Kenny Pickett's handling. And you got to give that stability for him. He's got to figure out his bearings. He's got to figure out what throws he can make. He's got to figure out how to manage an NFL pocket. He's got to figure out how to read defenses out of different disguises, call different audibles, just basic stuff at a quarterback level in the NFL. So I think that's what they're doing here. They're kind of just giving him basic standings because they made their bed. They made mistakes along the way, and firing Canada isn't actually, to me, going to make a massive tangible difference. I don't think they're going to start scoring 28 points with Mike Sullivan at the helm. I'll say that. Is Matt Canada the biggest problem with this offense? Yes. Is Mike Sullivan even better than Matt Canada? Honestly, I'm not even sure if he is. And there's no one else on the staff that you would turn the reins over to and actually want to see call plays.
One thing I really want to say real quick, I'm not even talking about the points. I'm talking about 1 of 12 on third down. 1 of 12. And the limited route tree for Pickens. Now he's going to take over for Claypool. And is he going to, is he going to run some slants? Is he going to work the middle of the field? Because they haven't used him that way at all so far. But I'm just saying you got to start somewhere. And I don't see Canada being the answer. We're seeing Pickett miss some reads that I think he would have hit the first couple of games he started because he got hit 17 times against the Eagles. I mean, he was getting blowed up. And they wasn't all little shots. Even when he was throwing the ball, he was getting hit right after big shots. That will make a guy gun-shy. That will make him, try to run out of that pocket too quick. It's just human nature. Like, oh my God, and he tried to bail a few times. They got to start somewhere. They got to start small. We're going to see the same thing every week all season. And I think that the quickest, easiest way would be to, put Warren in there and see if he can spark. And a guy who's more decisive and hits the hole quicker can help a offensive line that is the worst in the league and trying to run block. And that might help them to have some favorable third, and short where they can start converting a little bit. That's all I'm saying. It's just if you change nothing's going to change.
Yeah, I do agree that you need to change stuff. I just don't think that even Mike Sullivan changes much. Because he would be the play caller. There's no doubt about it. Mike Sullivan would be the play caller. Because you're not changing the scheme. You know what I mean? The Canada scheme itself is bad. But you can't make Kenny Pickett learn a scheme in 1 week. It's just not going to happen. So really the right move should have been to not bring Matt Canada back this year. There were signs of this last year. Everyone knew coming into this year, Matt Canada wasn't good. Like, we knew that. There was enough signs of that to know that Matt Canada wasn't the answer. And so to me, that was their biggest issue. And then you kind of botch Kenny Pickett's handling and throw him in cold turkey into the gauntlet of your schedule against probably the best defensive lines you're going to face all year. Really, I mean, you face the Bills, the Eagles, the Buccaneers in that stretch. I mean, it is a rough going of things for Kenny Pickett. And so you put him into a bad situation because this is not a good situation for a rookie either. They can't run the ball. They really can't pass protect. The only thing that you really have with Kenny Pickett is that he has decent weapons. He has Freiermuth, he has Deontay, he has Pickens. But Najee hasn't been healthy. He's not been playing well. And so you can't run the ball to take any pressure off Kenny, and the schematics aren't helping at all. And even a well-coached type of team with this scheme is going to have a very severe limit. And again, Mike Sullivan really isn't good. I can't stress that enough. He's just not good. And so there's not going to be a super tangible difference as a result. They made their mistake bringing Matt Canada back. That is the key to this. Matt Canada coming back was the issue. And now Kenny Pickett's first year is going to be very similar to Trevor Lawrence's first year, where he was with Urban Meyer and then he gets canned. And then it's got this rotating cast of play callers where what are you going to take away from a rookie year? What are you going to take away from his rookie year?
Yeah.
Not all that much because it's been mismanaged.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor Lawrence is basically a rookie now. Like, this is his real rookie season. I agree with you there. Okay, so Kenny Pickett, to me, looked worse this game. I'm looking at the plays he's missed. I'm looking at the reads he's looking. He looks actually worse than he looked when he first came in. Now, you've been covering him longer than I have. You're more familiar with Pitt and his days there than I am. Is this a problem Kenny Pickett has had in the past, or is this a player who is seeing ghosts, who's kind of like Shannon was saying, being impacted by like the situation? I've likened it to the Browns, how we used to say the Browns ruin quarterbacks. Like, doesn't matter who they take, they're going to ruin the quarterback they get. Is the Steelers team kind of, at least temporarily, that situation right now where maybe it might be better for Kenny to not be in there right now, just because he's not learning anything useful. He's just learning how to try and survive, each play.
Yeah, he's never been a guy that I think there was a misconception that Kenny was this super sharp processor. He really wasn't. He won in college through athleticism, out of structure, and arm talent. That's the thing. And he lacks a superstar trait. And that is something that I think we saw in the Miami game the most. When he had to make the big boy throws, they were picked off, couldn't make the play. And Kenny Pickett is a phenomenal quarterback through 85 to 90% of the game. And then you get to the big moments and he just crumbles. I don't know what it is about Kenny Pickett. That has been consistent over his Pitt career. And I think I'm seeing it in his NFL career too. And when you look at Philadelphia overall, it was just a mess. I mean, the reads he was missing were basic, just high school reads. I mean, some of these that he missed. Steven Sims up the seam was a big one that he missed. He missed Claypool on an out route that was open. He missed so many players. It was absurd. And you could tell Kenny wasn't comfortable. You could tell that he wasn't seeing the field well. And then there's his pocket management where he's flying out of clean pockets and running into pressure. He caused, I know the offensive line's credited with 23 pressures. Pickett could be argued to have caused at least half of them. I mean, legitimately, he ran into pressure so much in that game. And so, yeah, Kenny Pickett, this is not his usual self. Now, I don't think he's like the super sharp processor, or I don't think he's this great pocket manager. I think those were two of his biggest weaknesses. But I thought he got sharper in his senior year. I thought that he kind of learned what he could do and what he had in his arsenal. And so that to me is a situation that's hurting a rookie quarterback, because he's not doing anything well right now, right? You have a guy that's super accurate, that can win out of structure, that's athletic enough to make things happen. Well, build the offense around him, run some RPOs, get him on the move more with dynamic concepts. I'm not talking about the sprint out with the 5-yard curl. I'm talking give him legitimate options to win with. I think that's the biggest thing about the Matt Canada scheme is I don't think it gives the quarterback legitimate outlets for each call. If there is it doesn't give them legitimate answers to certain looks that defenses will give them. And so I think that's a huge issue, especially when you have a rookie. You want to make the rookie not have to earn everything, right? You want to make it easy on them. But they're making it really hard on Kenny Pickett. And so, yeah, I just think, yeah, he has issues. And yeah, there are definitely things to be worried about with Kenny Pickett, but he's not this guy. He's not this bad. Let's be real about that. This is a situation that is extremely harmful right now to Kenny Pickett. And you hope that they can reset something here in the bye week to get him back on the rails, so you know what you have. Because listen, if they're bad enough, and it's a legitimate conversation to start having, they're bad enough. If they have the 4th overall pick, you have to talk about CJ Stroud and Bryce Young at that point. You have to. Yeah. You have to. But if you don't know what Kenny Pickett actually is because the situation's so bad for him, well, you're kind of in a conundrum. And so you got to learn what you got in Kenny. And right now, I don't think they're learning anything about their quarterback.
Okay, we're going to take a real quick break here for a commercial. If you're on YouTube, just stick with us. If you're listening, we'll be right back after this commercial break with more from Know Your Enemy. 3, 2, 1. And we're back. Nick Farabaugh, thank you. You've been telling us about Kenny Pickett. We've talked about Matt Canada. I want to get your thoughts real quick on the Chase Claypool trade. Just to start off with it, do you think the Steelers got good return on this trade?
Great return. I didn't think they were getting a second. And I didn't think they were getting a potential top 50 pick at that. This is a great pick for the Steelers to get. 3 top 50 picks, 4 top 100 picks. For a team with this many holes on it, huge. Now it frees up your ability to draft 2 offensive linemen potentially in the top 50 or 2 defensive linemen, whatever you want to do. Or you can throw in, to me, this also allows them to go O-line, and then actually have the ability to maybe take a luxury pick, like an off-ball linebacker, right? If that's kind of what they want to do. With that third round pick is what I'm specifically saying. That third round pick now can be a lot of different things. You don't have to make it O-line, D-line. It can now be O-line, D-line corner. It can be O-line, D-line receiver. It can be O-line, D-line, kind of whatever you want. And I think that's flexibility, and that capital is so huge for them. And for Claypool, man, he's a good receiver. Second round pick good? Like that good? I don't think so. And he's been an inconsistent player that, regardless of the situation, has been a roller coaster ride throughout his career. He doesn't really play to his size. He runs a 4.42, but is he really that fast when he puts the pads on? He's got good mismatch potential. He's got potential over the middle of the field to win. He can win deep sometimes, but he is so inconsistent. He will give you good games. There is no doubt. He will have games like he did against Tampa Bay where he looks like $1 million. And then he'll have games where you're wondering what he's doing. I mean, he hurts your team at times. So I think Chase Claypool's a solid wide receiver 3. But I would not trade a second-round pick like this, the Bears second-round pick, which looks like it could definitely be a top 50 pick for him. So a great return for Omar Khan.
Oh, yeah. That we were all shocked. I believe that, to get that kind of compensation for the production they were getting, it was a no-brainer. I think that the Steelers hitting what we all hope is rock bottom this year, it's way worse than I expected. I knew it was going to be a tough year, but not to this degree. But now, I wanted to see him play Pickett. We see him a little different. I see certain things about him that makes me think he has potential to be a possible franchise guy in his processing and other things. I think his arm's better than a lot of people want to give him credit for. But, he got thrown in a bad situation. It was a quarterback competition that really wasn't. Tomlin had never went through this situation, and I think it was handled very poorly. To whereas Pickett didn't really get a lot of reps with the first team at all. And then once the season started, he got none. And then he gets thrown in there, and you see it because there is no chemistry at all. Not only is it a bad game plan, but there's no chemistry between him and his receivers, something he developed with a lot of his guys for that final 5th year there at Pitt. I'm not seeing a clean pocket. I heard you mention that earlier. I watched Hurts have a really clean pocket. I watched him stand back there and the guy could pat the ball. And, that's very envious for any quarterback. I don't see Pickett having that kind of time. There's a ton of chaos around him, and the interior line gets pushed back. Even when they protect him, they're in his face. So I have a little more hope. And I wanted the Steelers to figure out, could he be the guy? Well, now it seems that this team is way worse than any of us thought. So it's going to be more than 1 year rebuild. It's going to take more than one offseason of free agency and a good draft to turn this thing around. So therefore, they have to focus on the foundations. I think we can all agree. And as you said, offensive lineman, defensive lineman, the defensive lineman is getting old. And the offense needs a stud. They need a generational guy in there. They need some. You look at that Eagles line, and then you look at the Steelers line, and it ain't even a comparison. And I think they've got a couple of components that might be able to move forward in this rebuild, but they got a bunch of guys that ain't going to be there. But the Steelers don't want to be in this position again with the top 10 pick, which is what I think they're going to finish with. Can they really pass on a quarterback? One of the guys maybe you mentioned or somebody else, if they're there, or will they be doing the same mistake that so many people think they already did when they pick Pickett in the first round this year?
It's a tough one. Man, we truly, the answer is you got to see more out of Kenny Pickett. If he keeps playing like he is right now, I think that gives them that flexibility to go get a quarterback if they really want to.
What if you
Now-
miss 2 years in a row?
Sure, but also I'll say this: Omar Khan and Andy Weidel are a new regime. I know that Khan was under Colbert, but that is Colbert's quarterback pick. That is not Khan's quarterback pick. And so, what if Andy Weidel and Omar Khan go and say, "Man, we think CJ Stroud's the guy. We like Kenny, but we're not sure if he's the guy. But we believe in CJ Stroud. We believe in Bryce Young. We believe in this guy." Man, it's a tough. I asked to ask them to pass up on them because I really don't think they're gonna have many more opportunities in the top 10. I just don't. When you have Minkah Fitzpatrick and TJ Watt on a defense, and you have the money, the cap space to go out and sign guys like they will have the ability to do, you're gonna naturally drag your team upwards because the Steelers still have constructed what historically looks like with Andy Weidel at the helm and then the guys under them. It looks like a good structured scouting staff. And Omar Khan is one of the best cap managers in the NFL. So you feel like they're going to make impact signings. Maybe they make a few moves. So are they actually going to be picking top 10 again? Especially if Pickett, I think this is my thing with Kenny Pickett. I think he ends up being a pretty solid starting quarterback. I really do. I just am worried he ends up as one of those quarterbacks where you are in kind of, well, we can win and make the playoffs, but we can't actually make that jump with him. And I think that's always been the fear with Kenny Pickett is naturally with his tools, with his athleticism, with his accuracy, with his improved processing, his 5th year at Pitt, you expected that to translate. I think it will translate eventually. I still think he has a lot of things to work on there, but I think it's going to improve. He has a high floor, but the ceiling isn't always there. So I don't know. It's a tough question. I think right now, I can't see them making that move. I think they're going to ride Kenny Pickett through 2023 because I think they're going to acknowledge how awful the situation they threw him into. And so I think that they're going to try and see him through 2023 at least, just to see what they have because I think that he'll be a solid quarterback. I do. And so I think they'll be able to win with him. I think if he plays like he has now, I think it does have to be a consideration. I just don't think the Steelers at this time, by my kind of reading of it all, would make that jump. I don't. And I don't think they're necessarily wrong for it. Because, listen, you took the guy in the first round for a reason, and he had good tape at Pitt. He's had really good flashes this year still. Through all the bad, there has been a lot of good still with Kenny Pickett. And so I don't think that you make that move yet unless you 100% believe that that guy, whether it's Stroud, Young, I mean, Will Levis has to be in that discussion now, whatever, unless you truly believe that guy is the franchise guy. And by franchise guy, I'm not saying Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, because that's what Kenny Pickett, I think, can be at his best. I'm talking Mahomes, Allen, Herbert. I'm talking that tier.
Yeah, you talking about they made me think of Jimmy Garoppolo and how in San Francisco they've gotten to that point where they're like, okay, we just need the quarterback. We got the offense, a scheme, we got a system, we got talent. We just need a quarterback who can make those transcendent plays and take us a little farther. And that's where the Steelers are looking. That's where we're going to be with Kenny Pickett, is looking and saying, hey, is he going to be that really good? Is he going to be a quality starter? Is he going to be a really good starter? Or is he going to be a guy you can win Super Bowls with? With that, I want to ask you, what do you think the Steelers can achieve with this bye week? They've got 2 weeks to sit down with Kenny Pickett. We've always seen with the Steelers, their rookies take on either a bigger role or produce better after the bye week. That's almost every single rookie, almost every single year. Do you think the Steelers, do we have hope that Najee is healthier? Do we have hope that the offense makes more sense to Kenny Pickett or fits his talents better? Or maybe the usage of George Pickens becomes better? Do you think we see more 2 tight end sets and less 3 wide receivers with Claypool gone? What are you looking for coming out of this bye week, and how much improvement you think the Steelers can make?
I think the defense is going to be really good in the second half. I actually do. Getting TJ Watt back is just such a solver of problems, man. He's a game wrecker. And then DeMonte KZ is going to allow you to do so many different things in the secondary.
Yeah.
Like, their defense has a chance to be a top 10 defense in the second half. I truly believe that. I think it's a good defense. Plus, William Jackson III, you have the flyer on him now. The corner room's deeper. So, really, with what James Pierre's shown, you're 5 deep at corner. So that feels good if you're the Steelers. Offensively, this is the biggest area, obviously. I think you need to showcase Kenny Pickett's strengths, and that means let's build upon his quick, clean mechanics, his accuracy, and his ability. When he processes well, it's usually the underneath quick stuff. And so basic stuff. Let's allow him to read a backside dig. You can run dragon, which is a slant flat type of combination. Run simple stuff. Give Kenny Pickett the ability to make the simple work. And I think that's what they need to do. And that doesn't mean run 10 plays. Run the same 10 plays that you run all the time, that Matt Canada loves. That means let's build an infrastructure around Kenny Pickett that caters to him. I don't think they have done that well enough yet. And I think that is where you probably don't trust Matt Canada. Well, that's where, to me, if I'm Mike Tomlin, I am putting my elbow grease into the offense. I get he's a defensive coach. That's his baby. That's his passion. I'm trusting Terrell Austin and Brian Flores a little bit more than I'm trusting Matt Canada right now. Just to be quite honest with you, those guys have tenure. Those guys have proven validity in this league. And those guys have made consistent adjustments throughout the year. You see all the different stuff they've tried defensively. It hasn't all worked, but dang, they've turned over every single stone they could have, personnel-wise, to try and make up for the loss of TJ Watt. They have. And so I'm trusting those guys. But you need to build an infrastructure around Kenny Pickett. And I think that's what you need to do in your self-scouting. What are we having success with Kenny Pickett, which is a lot of RPO stuff, play action stuff, specifically same-sided concepts where he's reading high-low concepts. He has looked really good in those areas. I also think you look at the middle of the field. Let's give him, 15-yard curls. Let's give him backside digs. Let's give him seams that stress these safeties. Let's put the defense on the heels and allow the rookie quarterback to make simple reads. And you know what? He's going to miss reads. He's going to make bad reads. He's going to look bad. Rookie quarterbacks are not supposed to be good. That's why people don't play rookie quarterbacks, right? Mm-hmm. Justin Herbert was unbelievable his rookie year. He has put everybody, I think, out of proportion of what a rookie quarterback should look like. Josh Allen wasn't good his rookie year. He was awful. I mean, really, there very rarely is there good rookie quarterbacks. And so Kenny Pickett is going to struggle, and you're going to have to let him struggle. But build it to his strengths. Allow him to get on the move and allow him to read up levels. Run flood concepts. Don't run just a 5-yard drag route, right? Or the flat throw where all Kenny Pickett does is essentially shovel pass it. Give him an option up top. Give him an option at the sticks. Give him 3 levels to read. These are simple things that you can do and that Kenny Pickett will be able to do because he's great throwing off platform and he's very accurate. He's got great mechanics. So to me, you just got to build that infrastructure. I don't know if they're going to be a great running team. I'm still not quite sure if Najee Harris is actually good. I think that they can use Pat Freiermuth more in different ways over the middle of the field to be the security blanket. I think you can get Steven Sims involved more. I know a lot of people hate the jet sweep stuff, but they've actually run pretty well on jet sweeps this year. And I feel like at times they don't use it enough. And it's not a viable threat because they run it maybe 2 times a game. And Steven Sims, I think, is actually a really fun add to the offense because he is shifty and different things. So I'd like to see him kind of in there a little bit more. I'd like to see 2 tight end sets because I like the personnel matchups you can kind of create with Pat Freiermuth when Zach Gentry's in there. And Gentry isn't super dynamic, but he's a sure-handed target that can win at 2 different levels and win up the seam. So you have the ability to work things there. So I think there's different things you can do to build an infrastructure on Kenny Pickett. Just play to his strengths. That's what they need to do. You're not asking to overhaul the scheme. You're asking him to make the offense conform to the quarterback, not make the quarterback conform to the offense, which is what they've done thus far.
Yeah, NFL offense, the best offensive coordinators are constantly evolving, not just week to week, game to game, half to half. I mean, they do something in the first half to set up something in the second half, and they scheme guys open, and you see it. And when you watch it, and then you watch the Steelers, and it looks totally different. And, everything you're saying, I agree with. I just don't see Canada being capable of doing that. He come in with the system, and he's like, okay, I don't have the talent to run my system. And everybody bought into it. Tomlin talked about quarterback mobility. And so they went out and got some guys that would supposedly fit his system better, and it still don't work, and it looks exactly the same. And those 10 to 12 plays that you're talking about, everybody knows them. And, you watch the Chiefs, and they run a play there in the first half against the Bills, and it set up a successful play in the second half. And I was just like, wow. I mean, I didn't even know if that was legal to do that, because it's been so long since we've seen the Steelers do that. You're talking about Sims, getting some guys in there that can give them some more splash plays, more elusive, can run with the ball, something Deontay Johnson cannot. And again, I bring up Jaylen Warren, because whatever's going on with Harris, if it's injury related, if he's just a bad fit for this offense, he's not effective. And I like the guy, and I don't want to, give up on him, but he might need to be on the sidelines a little more, and maybe take an example from Jaylen Warren, the way he explosively and aggressively and decisively hits the hole. Sometimes it's only a 3-yard run or a 4-yard run, but you just got to take it. And you get a couple of them, and you got 3rd and short. But the dancing and we all seen the replay of the swing pass out of the backfield, and he caught it, and he needed 3 yards, and there's nobody within 5 yards of him. He's always compared to Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry would have accelerated, and he would at least run over those guys to get that first down. And it's a juke, and he went nowhere, and he didn't even get the first down. It's getting to where, after he had his meeting last year with Jerome Bettis, and Jerome Bettis was talking about, well, if you're more patient, you could set up bigger runs. That worked for Bell, who had, just such, Bell and Bettis had great feet. That's not Harris's game. When he jump cuts, when he stutters, he loses momentum, and then he's not as effective. I think he can still be successful, but he has to change his mentality. I think that having Warren play more, even start, and see and get this thing rolling, I think we'll see that even help Harris, and maybe make him realize what he needs to do to be successful. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Najee is a flawed player right now. He is dancing too much. He does need to get more north and south. He's never been explosive. I don't think that's ever been his game. I think he's more agile than explosive. I thought one of the things that made Najee so effective was his ability to cut on a dime and just go. And that's why I would like for him to just take a cut and boom.
Yeah.
And barrel into guys. He's a big dude who falls forward a lot. But I also said this in regards to his decision-making issues and his vision issues. Gifted lateral runners, they run laterally because that's what they're good at. And Najee Harris was great in high school with that. He was great at Alabama by doing that. He had the talent to beat everyone he was facing because he is so quick laterally. Guys like him don't move that well. He moves unbelievably, in my opinion, when he's cutting and just putting his foot in the ground and going with it. He just cuts on angles that are very rare for a guy that size. And so I would like to see him keep it in a box, learn to run between the tackles more consistently. Trust your offensive line even if they're not good, because trust me, You'll find holes every now and then, like Jalen Warren does, and then Najee will look like a much more efficient running back. And so I think he can definitely take kind of aim at that. But until he figures that out, he's not going to be anything more than what he is right now. And that's really, I think, the case here with Najee Harris is he's probably not fully healthy and he's trying to do too much. But this was also an issue last year. It was an issue on his tape at Alabama. So if he gets it in order, Najee Harris, if he is an efficient runner between the tackles, and this is really his biggest issue, if he's an efficient runner between the tackles, he will be a top 10 running back in the NFL. No questions asked. He's just got to learn how to do it. And that's going to be the big thing in his career. It really is. It's going to decide if he's a bust or if he ends up being a future foundational piece for this team.
All right. We're heading towards the end of our show, so I want to get a prediction for the rest of the season. You can give me a range if you want, however, but we normally call out the score for the next game and predict the result of the next game, but this is the bye week. So I want to look forward to this season. We're 2-6 now, right now. TJ Watt's supposed to be coming back. Devontae Kazee coming back into the fold. A bye week for the Steelers to try and get their offense maybe to a level that, you could win a few close games here. Nick, where do you see the Steelers' record going the second half of this season?
It's not a good schedule, guys. It really isn't. I mean, look at the quarterbacks on their schedule. Andy Dalton. I mean, you saw what the Bengals look like without Jamar Chase. It doesn't look like he's gonna be suiting up for that game. You got Marcus Mariota, Sam Ehlinger, PJ Walker on that schedule. It's not really a good schedule. The Steelers, theoretically, there is not a game on the schedule they cannot win. I truly believe that. There's not a game on that schedule they can't win. There will be tough games. The Ravens, twice, but that's a rivalry, so you feel like you can always compete in that one. What about the Deshaun Watson-led Browns? That could also be a tough one, but again, I think the Steelers have the infrastructure to win that game. It's a tough one. I truly believe this defense is going to be really, really good. I think they're going to give teams fits. And it's not a good schedule. I also look at Kenny Pickett, and he should get better. Like, that is what should happen. A rookie quarterback should improve. So if I'm projecting that, like, looking at the schedule, we sure they ain't going to finish like 8-9? I could see it. I could see it happening. That's my prediction. I think they're going to finish 8-9. And fans will hate it because they're going to end up in the middle of the draft again. But I don't think they're as bad as they've shown they are. I think if TJ Watt plays the first half of the year, they're 5-3.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, they're 5-3. So I don't think they're that bad. So I think they're going to finish 8-9, and this is an easy back half of the schedule. So I think they're gonna raise themselves up to the middle part of the draft.
All right, Shannon, what do you think?
Nick kind of already said it, that they could easily win enough to just be mediocre again. And the way the NFL set up, if you're mediocre, you're going to stay mediocre unless you get lucky and hit on a generational talent or two. Because you're not going to pick early enough in the rounds to get those guys usually. That's my concern, is because I know that you want to win every game. I've been saying I'm not concerned about wins as much as I am sustainable growth, player development, improvement as they start this rebuild. I've said, after you could tell they were going to go 2-6, I said 7-10. Because I think that, and that is if Pickett can show that he's got an opportunity to maybe be the guy to lead this team into the future. And I'm hoping he will, and I think he can. But looking at the schedule, I can see 7 wins. So I would say 7-10.
Okay, 7-10. I'm gonna go. I've got to do. I'm gonna go 6-2-1. That's what they're doing in the second half. This team's gonna end up 8-8-1. Just good enough to give the Tomlin the 500 record that people think he cares about, and people are concerned that the Steelers value so much. They're going to bounce back. They're going to give him a non-losing season, and it's going to drive people absolutely nuts, both for the draft and for the fact that everyone's going to be talking about, the non-losing season streak. So that's my prediction. I think that every year. I think whenever the Steelers are really bad, I'm like, they're still going to somehow pull this out. I just that's the Steelers. That's the Steelers. And like Nick said, the quarterbacks on this schedule, they're not going to. If you've got a good enough quarterback and you've got good enough receivers, you're going to absolutely torch these defensive backs, the cornerbacks, and that's not going to be. They're not going to be facing that. All right. That's pretty much our show for tonight. Nick, let the people know where they can read your stuff. You are all over the place talking Steelers, doing a great job. All your stuff's great content. So let everyone know where they can get a hold of that.
Yeah, you can find my stuff on Twitter at Farabaugh FB. Read my stuff at Steelers Now, writing articles, analysis, news, all of that good stuff. So make sure to check that all out.
All right. Shannon, any articles you have coming out?
No, just working on a couple of projects, but nothing yet.
I know Dave and I have a Vertex I'm finishing up tonight coming out on AJ Brown and how the Steelers failed to deal with him and how they adapted, the different things they tried. If you want to see the problems in the Steelers secondary, AJ Brown really painted that picture well for us. He really put it all on film to show for everyone to see what the Steelers' problems in the secondary are. For everyone listening, thank you so much. For everyone in the live chat talking, thank you. I've been enjoying reading your comments. Helps me pick my questions. We value you guys every week, even though we don't get to bring you into the actual show much. Nick, thank you so much for coming on. If you don't know, Nick Farabaugh used to write it Behind the Steel Curtain before moving on. Now he has locker room access. It's all kinds of stuff. It's great. He's big time in it now, but he still comes back, hangs out with all of us here. Thank you so much, Nick, for coming back. Again, everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for reading. Thank you for clicking over behindthesteelcurtain.com. Thank you for listening to all of our podcasts. You can catch them all on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. Most of all, thank you so much. Have a great week. And as always, let's go Steelers.